Today is Tuesday the 7th of August 2018 and I am in the children's park in front of the main Red Museum in Malacca. A late middle-aged, physically unattractive man with my arm bust up in a sling, by myself in Malaysia and pretty much the world, with no job or ties anywhere, and hopefully on a charted course to Nirvana. So I'm going to explain how I got to be here and how I intend to at least chart the course to Nirvana before I leave, and possibly even find it. See, I didn't actually mean to come to Malacca. The idea was to go to Sapa in North Vietnam and make a film which is all about my amazing discoveries of how ordinary people can become fully enlightened spiritual masters. And this would be my main epitaph in case I don't last much longer in the world. Well, I'd already bought a ticket to Kuala Lumpur because this is the main hub for changing to Taiwan, but it turned out Taiwan doesn't have accommodation I can afford. So I bought a ticket back to where I was in Cambodia, where I've been working in the cinema. Another story I'll tell you about later. But I thought, well, why not just take a break in Malaysia? So I booked a ticket back for the 13th of August, flew off to Kuala Lumpur. I really wasn't enjoying it. I thought, well, I'll just go on maybe to Thailand and then go back to Cambodia, because I just wanted a break, because I was thinking of actually raising money to buy the cinema I worked at. I checked in a hotel, which was horrible. It was just a cheap little place that was very unfriendly, run by these two young Tamil guys, one of whom was being really cruel to this little kid, and it was really breaking my heart. And I thought, well, I'll go to Malacca just for the weekend, because then it's going to be easier to actually buy the tickets to come up to get to Thailand. So I bought the ticket, booked the hotel, went to bed, woke up, wanted to go to the toilet, went to turn the light switch on, and my arm came out my socket. And just for a second I felt it twist out, and I thought, oh, please go back in, because it's happened before. But nope, it didn't go back in. It came straight out and hung limply by my side in agony. Well, it was about 2 a.m, so I went out to the reception. I said to the room guy, well, my arm's dislocated. He says, well, what can I do? Because I'm not allowed to leave reception. I said, well, get someone to help me, get an ambulance. He said, no, there's no ambulance in Malaysia. You're a foreigner. So there were some people getting ready, the Chinese. So I said, go and ask them if they'll help me. When they help, they would tell them, nope, they've got to catch a bus. So I had to go out in the middle of the night, found a guy asleep in his taxi who agreed to take me to a hospital and basically ripped me off on the fare with my arm hanging out. Now, I couldn't actually get dressed, so all I had on was my underwear. I managed to put this, would just drape this kind of jacket over my shoulders and flip-flops, money belt, and a bag with my tablet. So we set off, and I'm saying, oh, please go slowly, because every time we're going over the bumps, it's like, oh, it's agony. Well, he ended up pulling outside a private clinic. I said, no, I can't afford a private clinic. I mean, come on. He said, you want the state hospital? I said, yeah. So we drove on to the hospital. And he said, and we got there, and I kind of got out of the car and just limped in, and this receptionist was there in the full hijab and everything, and just looked, well, I wouldn't say, it was more disgusted. She looked irritated I was there. And she said, what's wrong? Sat me down. I said, oh, but then my arms come out of the socket. It's hanging down. She goes, I can't move it or anything. Yeah, okay. So they got me a wheelchair. Some orderly came, and he ripped a piece of cloth, and he tied a little sling around my neck, which is this ripped cloth. And I'm saying, oh, please give me some water because I'm so thirsty. As soon as it happened, the first thing I thought, apart from the agonising pain, was how absolutely hungry I am. Anyway, they wheeled me off, and there was like around the corner, there was a long table just full of all these nurses, and they were the same like grey uniform with a white headdress thing on, and they're like staring and laughing and giggling, and it's really, really horrible. And some other woman came up who wasn't in that uniform. She was just in like jeans and a t-shirt. And after what happened, I explained. She says, well, okay. She says, you're a foreigner, so we actually have to charge you double what it costs us. But the x-rays are 12 ringgit or something, so we'll just reel you in. So was pushed in, and there's all this laughing and joking, and there's maybe 10 or 15 nurses staring at me, thinking that was really hilarious, and I'm in agony. Well, they went and they left me. Then a man came in a white coat, asked me what happened, injected me with something that made no difference to the pain whatsoever. And then they left me again. Then they asked me, and I heard all the nurses around the corner talking and saying this, like, I heard the word guest house and blah, blah, blah. And it was so unwelcoming. I was really, really worried and in a lot of pain. But the pain started to get a little bit better. Then this other woman came, also casually dressed, and I remember about her eyes looked out in opposite directions, so you couldn't tell where she was looking. And she seemed quite young, but I'm at the age where almost everybody seems quite young to me, and so I visit an old people's home. So she started chatting to me and saying, oh, you won't be able to travel, you'll have to stay in one place. And she was feeling my arm, and just as the pain started to go, it all came back. She goes, well, I think it's a dislocation, but we'll x-ray it. So somebody else came, wheeled me around to the room for the x-ray. This woman came out, had a cold, she was coughing and sneezing, didn't say a word to me, just pushed me down and took these 3 x-rays. And I'm saying, like, why are we doing 3? Why is there an x-ray from behind? And she just is ignoring me, and I'm groaning. I just remember her constantly coughing and sneezing while she's doing this. They wheeled me back. The first woman came back and said, oh, we're going to sort you out, and we'll put you in a little, kind of a cubicle. Because there weren't proper rooms. They were they're kind of partitioned off, but there was no privacy curtains or anything like that. So I was just laying there. And they all started to assemble around me. And the woman who was in jeans and a t-shirt, who explained to me they're going to sedate me. I remember standing next to me, and I saw this vial of something, but it was pure white liquid, like a thick cream, and they'd already put this like needle in me where they could just keep on adding chemicals, and there was one drip in there. They took the drip out and they put this white thing in. They're talking to themselves, and there's maybe 6 or 7 nurses just standing in front whispering, basically staring to see the spectacle. And the one to my left spoke, and I heard the word ketamine. And that was the last thing I heard before I went on a trip. And reality just kind of changed. It was like, rather than flowing, reality became a series of pictures. And in a way, it was quite a bad trip. I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what my name was, what planet I'm on, what species I am. It was just like I was an empty consciousness. And there was no time other than this sequence of pictures of hostile, scary looking faces, some of them in nurses' uniforms looking at me. I think somebody was filming me or taking pictures. I'm not sure. I could be wrong on that because I was like hallucinating. And it wasn't I was panicking, like a bad trip, but it was unpleasant. I just had no idea what was going on, what planet I'm from, and what is this? What is going on? I can't even get a thought in my mind to get some bearing of I can't remember anything about reality. Nothing in the world existed except this series of pictures of faces of nurses, picture after picture, not flowing, static pictures. And I have no idea about anything that exists in the universe except these pictures. Well, after a while I had the thought, well, hang on. One thing I remember, because it was getting scary, but I remember being in a lot of pain. And now I'm not in any pain. So that's a good thing. So just stay calm and relax. And I'm thinking desperately, what do I, okay, it's okay then, I'm not in pain, so just relax. And I remember the name of a spirit guide once that I dreamt about, and I said that name twice. And I'm thinking, okay, I said my guide's name twice, so kind of, that's given me some safety. What else do I know? And I remembered the mantra that I chant when I'm meditating sometimes, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And I said that 2 or 3 times, and then I calmed down and just thought, well, just go with this. And I just watched these pictures, and I was calm in my mind. All of a sudden, reality came back, and there was somebody talking to me. It was very sudden, within the space of a second maybe. It slowed down. I still felt very spaced out and a little bit trippy, but there was a lady there, and she says, "How are you? It's all right. We got it back in." So I looked over to my arm, which had previously been hanging out of its socket, and it was back in position, and it was tied up with just a piece of bandage with a big knot in it. And I said, "Oh my God, that's back in." She goes, "Yep, we're all done." And I said, "Oh, that's a fantastic job," because I really never felt a thing. I heard the word ketamine, went on a bad trip, came back, and my arm's in position. She says, "Well, what are you going to do? You're going to have to rest, aren't you, now?" And I said, "Well, no, because, I said, look, I could hardly speak because I was still confused." I said, "I'm trying to answer your questions, and I'll be forever grateful for that pain relief." And I was, but I can't answer you because I'm tripping right now. And she didn't know what that meant as a medic. She said, "Look, you need to forget your trip and just stay in one place and then go back to England and get this looked at." It's like, well, I didn't tell her I don't live in England. I've not been there, and hopefully I'll never see it again. I just said, okay. I said, "But I've got to check out my hotel in a few hours. The hotel's full. I've got another place in Malaysia." She goes, "Well, you've still got a few hours, so don't worry. We'll just leave you and see how you go." So she went. Another nurse came, pulled out some tube, blood went everywhere. Something, I don't know, went wrong. Like, I saw blood then going up into the drip bag. But I just lay, calmed down. After a while, the woman came who had eyes that looked out in opposite directions. The one who'd been feeling my arm and made it much worse. But I'm pretty certain she was by my right when I lost consciousness. So she had a little chat with me and explained, you've got to keep it in this. She said, "You need to keep it in this position." When I looked, I'd been wrapped around in a bandage that kept my arm across my body with my wrist nearish my neck. She said, "You've got to keep that on for 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll give you a collar and cuff. We'll give you some anti-inflammatories, some painkillers, and then you're discharged." Off she went. So I said, "Well, thanks," because look, it's in. At the end of the day, I went there with my arm out, thinking there'd be agonising pain to get it back in. It's back in. I felt no pain, and there was no pain then at all, really, just a little slight ache. So she went. Nurse came and told me to go and pay. So I went around to pay 250 ringgit, about $70. Came back. She tried to call a Grab, but there was some problem. Couldn't get one. So then I was just sent to security and sent to a place where they said there'd be a big taxi rank. But there's so many taxis, just walk down to the motorway. So I walked out, and all I've got is like a referral letter just explaining what happened. Now, looking back, somebody's supposed to give me a collar, somebody's supposed to give me painkillers, somebody's supposed to give me anti-inflammatories. It's just so disorganised. And I felt like I was a circus animal. But walked down to the motorway, and there was no taxis going past, just cars, and there was no one to ask either. It was just in the middle of nowhere. So I walked back to the hospital, but then I saw a car park, and there was one taxi with a guy asleep. Went in there. It's too expensive to come back, and I was still all dizzy, and I've got nothing but underwears on, this coat, plastic bag with my tablet in, and my money belt around my neck. So he took me to a train station. I stood there on the train there's no seats, nobody stood up to give me their seat. Went back to Malacca Central, went back to the hotel. The guy just said, "Oh, hello," like nothing's happened. And it's, the hotel's full, you've got a couple of hours to check out. So I went back to bed. I lay there for a bit. I had to get packed up. I've got 3 or 4 bags, I can't carry them. I said to the guy, "I don't know how I'm going to get there. I need help to get to the station," because look, nothing I can do. This is the guy who throws the cat around on the stairs. He said, "I can't help you." Well, I said to him to start with, like, how do I get to the station? Meaning kind of ironically, I can't get to the station. But he thought I just meant, how do I go? She said, go out, turn left, over the bridge. Eventually, I don't know how I did it, but I got up and I dragged the bags as far as the station. Then I thought, I'm not going to make it. I went to the information desk and just asked for a wheelchair. Absolutely unhelpful. They put the bags in the wheelchair and pushed it, but they're so resentful. And then got me as far as the station to get to the bus station, switched off somebody else who didn't know how to drag it on myself. Dragged it off, went upstairs. Of course, the lift's broken. I had to go upstairs dragging these 3 bags on one arm. I'm still a bit dizzy from this ketamine. Then somebody helped me, blah, blah, blah. Got on the bus, came to Malacca. Went in the hotel, and it was like a little traditional townhouse. It was quite surreal. Because it was like a small mildew room, and it had a picture, like a lithograph of, I can't remember the name of the lady, but the famous woman who was in Breakfast at Tiffany's, on the wall. A bed that looks like a hospital bed, although it was so comfy. A wooden table and chair, that's it. It was just, and it was like all wooden, seeing I could hear people walking around. So I stayed there for 3 days. First day I woke up, and all the dressings are just on the floor. They haven't even lasted. So I walked out in my underwear. I said to the guy, can you take me up? So he goes, no. He gave me my dressings in my hand. They sent me to the nearby chemist. Went to the chemist, who just tied a bandage around me to keep my arm there and left it there for a couple of days. When I'm asking where's the doctor, how do I see a doctor? No one knows. I changed hotels to a really uncomfortable bed, but there's a Japanese woman running it, Maya, and she said, ask a chemist to dress you. I went around the chemist, nobody would do it. I ended up at Guardian Chemist. I said to the woman, look, this is dislocated. It's tied to my body with a bandage. That's not right. She goes, oh, no, I don't know what you do then, exactly how you get that done. I'll go and ask somebody. So she went in the back, made a phone call, and she's like saying, so talking in Malay, and then she's saying, oh, please, miss, like relating this story like I'd walked up like an idiot begging for help. But she said go to the hospital, the state hospital. So next day, got a grab, went to the state hospital, explained what happened. Can someone just wrap a bandage around me? Because I've already paid twice what it cost you. Well, I'll go and ask somebody. Went to ask somebody, came back, said it's another 250. You've got to start again, have x-rays, do all this. We don't just do simple wrappings. Like, okay. I'm going then. So he goes, okay. And he was like the security guard. So he took me to some room. He said, I've seen people do this before, so I'll just do my best. He got this big sticky tape. He cut off the little bandage that was tying the thing to my arm, taped it around me, very big sticky plaster. I couldn't have it on for longer than a minute, and I pulled it off, and I just limped down to the car park. Another guard brought me back, said, okay, look, basically tied another bandage around and just said, leave it like that, but remember, that could dislocate again, so just try to keep it a bit tight and be careful. And that was it. I was back where I started. So of course came back, good old YouTube and Google, worked out maybe some better ways to do it, a couple of bandages. It's still not great, but I've kept it, and they did give me a good collar, that thing I was supposed to get, the thing that keeps my wrist near my chin. So I've been doing that now, and I was going to go up and get the bus, and it's so much trouble. And I thought, look, it's not that much more to fly, so I bought a ticket, and I'm going out in 2 days. Now it's Tuesday, I'm flying on Thursday, so last day tomorrow. Now of course I'm going to need physiotherapy. I've got some other condition that's ongoing. I've had a few dislocations. My leg partly dislocated on a bus the last time I had to do a visa run. So I need to go and find out what's wrong, and am I ever going to survive a long time. I need to start thinking like that, because I spent my life just basically following this spiritual calling, and I think that I have, after a bad start and no real worldly success, found a way to chart a course to nirvana, to total freedom. I think that I've worked that out myself. After that being the main driving force in my life, and I want to record that, and I want to record the story of how I came to be sitting here with my arm all messed up in the middle of nowhere with nothing, and how anyone can really chart the course to Nirvana. Hopefully it's a bit smoother than my journey, but to explain how I got to be here and how I hope to get to where I'm going, that can be DW3, and I'll explain why I'm going to call it that in another podcast. But well, it's not a podcast, it's talk, chit chat, something to do, I suppose. It's just I used to write up my diaries a lot, but it's so much nowadays. I'm much more into film and audio visual stuff, so I thought I would perhaps do something. I did something like this about 25 years ago on cassettes and threw it all away, but in a way I'm coming home, because I used to talk about the same thing and I don't know that much more nowadays, but whatever. Quite some story, huh? I've got so many more and I keep on making new ones. Thanks for listening.